Alright, welcome to Revelation Space Explained. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kaylee.
And today's the first episode. We're going to be going over Chapter 1. But first off, we're going to explain what this is, because you guys don't know what we're talking about. You just met us about 20 seconds ago. So we're going to be starting on the first book. And there's about 4 books in total of the main series, so I think we're reading those first. Oh, also, I've read all the books, I think. Yeah, I think I've read all of them.
Alright, and this is my first time ever reading a real sci-fi book, actually. So it's also my first time reading Revelation Space.
So we're going to have 2 different perspectives on what happens in the book. And so we're going to try and keep this spoiler-free, but what I mean is, like, I'm only going to talk about what happens in each chapter. I'm going to try and keep what I know out of it until we get to it. So you're good to read along with us, for like read the chapter and then, check in with us, see what we thought about it. We probably going to read them in the order that the read along over on a channel I like called Media Death Cult went in. They went in like the main books, and then they went over to the prequels, and then like the short stories last. So we're going to try and get through all of these. We're going to go through chapter by chapter. Without further ado, I think we're ready to jump into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, chapter 1. What happened? What'd you think of it?
So far it's pretty easy to follow through with. There were some parts where I got really confused.
That kind of happens in the Alistair Reynolds books. He just kind of drops concepts on you, and then you just kind of figure it out later. But like plot-wise, what happens? I wrote notes down. I know what happened.
So first it starts off, they're at like an excavation site or whatever, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
like
they're doing?
an excavation, I think, on an alien planet. I think it's it's called Resurgam. And also the dates are very important. They're not very important, but they're important because of moving around in space and the time it takes. So it's 2551 at this point. And no one's going to remember that, but I'll bring it up later when we go to the other chapters. But it's Resurgam, 2551. I'm imagining this place kind of as like a Mars-like, because when they're describing it, people have to have like masks, and there's like razor storms, which I think are dust storms, and they have to have masks, but they can walk around with no suit. So it's kind of like Mars, but you can walk around without dying, is what I'm picking up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you picking up? How are you imagining this place?
That's exactly what I was imagining, something kind of dark, especially with the storm going on. So it must be a pretty massive storm since they wanted to evacuate. But the main character.
No, Dan Sylveste.
Yeah. He's very determined to what they find. They found something really cool.
They found a obelisk. I think they're like excavating the Amarantan ruins or something. The Amarantan are like an extinct species of alien, and they don't know how they died, or they think they know how they died. There was like an event that they mentioned, but we don't really know what the event is yet. Dan Sylveste is a little bit stubborn. He's like an archaeologist. He doesn't care much for the safety of his team, and he's a little self-centered and goal-driven. Like there's a little excerpt on when his dad gave him a human skull, and he was very ignorant about it. But then he says, "Oh, I was more upset that I was made a fool of than I was ungrateful for the gift." So we can kind of tell what type of person this is. He's kind of like a selfish person. He came on a ship from Yellowstone, and Yellowstone's like this other planet that we haven't really heard much about. I mean, it's the first chapter of the book. We don't know what Yellowstone is. But he said there was a mutiny, and the mutineers, they took the ship and left, and they returned to the system. So I think this is like, it's like a colony, but like really more for research, and half of the people got tired and just left.
My notes was the remains of the alien race thing that we were talking about, the thing that they were digging up, and like that's what they're there for. And I like that skull story that they gave, like that random part where he talked about the school and why he's the way he is. I like that. I don't know, I really like the main character. Maybe it's bad because he looks like a dick. He looks like a bad guy. I don't know. Comes off as a bad guy, especially. What was it?
He has that villain trait.
Yeah, exactly. And like that one guy that came up to him in the very beginning, where he was like, "Oh, should we evacuate?" Like all scared and intimidated. But he was very cocky. He was like, he told him, he's like, "Go tell them to do this, tell them to do that." And then what did he say? He was like, the way he said it, like gave him the opportunity to say something back to him, but he didn't. That's because he was very
intimidating.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know.
But one of the characters, I think her name is Sluka. She's like one of the people on the dig team, and she stands up to him. She's like, "Yo, people are in danger," and she hints about like a coup being imminent against Sylveste, which is kind of confusing because we think he's just like a dude on an archaeological dig, so we don't know that he's like coup against who in the archaeology team. But I think as we learn more, like how I said the colony is it's like a science type of colony, so maybe the chief archaeologist is like the ruler. I don't know, person in charge.
And that's also where she took the mask off to speak, which is like, what kind of environment are they in? You know, that's what I was thinking of.
Well, I mean, it's not like Mars, obviously, because you couldn't do that because there's no pressure. You can't be walking around. But if there's no pressure, it just means you can't. If there's like the correct pressure, it means you can walk around without a mask on. You just need it to breathe. Kind of like if you're underwater, you need to breathe because you can't breathe. Like the whatever's in the air. You need oxygen, but she can take it off for a second to speak. So yeah, it's breathable, but at an acceptable atmospheric pressure. And after that, I think he needs some help because he's like kind of off put by this. So he goes up to the crawler and he has his own private quarter, and he brings in Calvin Sylveste, your favorite. What did you think of Calvin?
I thought he was really cool.
That is really
so
cool.
what was it? It was what do you say? He was a beta hologram.
A beta hologram, yeah.
And what is that? Like, what's the difference between that and the? What was the other type?
Called the alpha level, I think.
The alpha level, yeah, exactly. And then when the other dude came up, he mentioned, he was like, Dan, what is it, Sylveste? He had to make it very clear that it was a beta level hologram instead of a alpha one, for whatever reason. So I was confused because I was like, what kind of holograms are there?
Yeah, well, it's not just that he's a hologram. He's I think a simulation. Like, he's being displayed in a holographic form right now, but I think he's not just a hologram. I think it's a minor difference, but he's a program, and the beta level is, for some reason, not as valid as the alpha level. So I guess that's why it's called beta instead of an alpha. But I don't think it's been explained why that is yet. Calvin's Dan's father, which is kind of odd to keep your father on the DVD player. There's some animosity between them that we can tell, and like Dan doesn't like summoning his dad at all. And he said something, and he said he had mechanical eyes implanted by his dad. He's like, "Oh, how are the eyes doing, son?" Which is interesting. And it said that he's like, "When are you gonna let me take over your body again?" Which is a little weird. I don't know what that's all about. So he's inhabited his son's body, which is odd. Two other things that I got mentioned off the bat: he met with the pattern jugglers and the shrouders. But I think that's the only time they're ever mentioned. There's like something about him hiding a secret about the shrouders, but it doesn't get dug into. The only other thing I can think of is the technology of the time. Like, they're on some outback planet, but it said Sylveste, Dan Sylveste, the son, is about 208 years old, which is pretty dang old, if you ask me. So I think the technology level there is showing. What do you think about the longevity?
What did it say? It said like he was 8 years into his 3rd century. I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
208 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, whoa, that would suck. And who was the other guy? What was his name? The one that he talked to.
Oh, I didn't write down his name, but yeah, I said he was pretty old. It said he was into his
They said that
3rd,
he was the
4th century.
Yeah, he said that he was gonna be the one to die first.
Of old age.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a picture of their medical technology. So it can extend the life by hundreds of years, but eventually you can't do it anymore. It's 400 years seems to be kind of the peak for them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that's like just because they're on an outback world or if it's just because that's just the limit at the time, but yeah, it seems like they have some high tech, but they're not like, invincible forever. Something else that they say, people start abandoning the dig by the end of the chapter. Mm-hmm. It mentions that Resurgam is an expeditionary council. So yeah, it is an expeditionary council governed by a council. It's a research thing. And so it kind of lays out that Dan is the leader of it, but there's someone about to rise up against him. What was his name? What's his name?
Just insert a clip of you saying the name.
I'm going to.
It's like completely unmatched with the audio.
There's another character, Pascal, and she's like a scientific reporter, like a scientist herself, but she's kind of going back and forth with Dan, so she's holding her own against him intellectually, so she's pretty smart herself. And the Amarantan aliens that went extinct, they were described as bird-like.
Yeah, when they were talking about the bone structure. So I was imagining that, because it's like superficially, they look somewhat like to humans, except for like the beak, like tip at the skull and stuff. It's kind of freaky.
Kind of like dinosaur people.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're not actually related to birds. They're just kind of like...
Yeah, I got that bone structure.
They just, what's the word I'm looking for? Co-evolved the same shape as birds, but humans. Mm-hmm. So it's, no relation, but similar dinosaur people. Mm-hmm. There's a mention of something that his dad did, Calvin did, called the 80, where 79 people died.
The whole ending threw me off. Like, I guess it leads into chapter 2 maybe, but it just really threw me off. Because, like, at first I thought Calvin was, like, a somewhat good guy, kind of. And then at the end, was he talking about himself? Was he talking like, oh, this is my secret, I'll let you know about my secret of the 80 thing? Yeah,
about the 80, so there's like something that happened back in the day where 79 people died, but we don't know who's the one person who didn't die. What'd you say?
Was it him?
I don't know. We don't know.
He's the one that knows the secrets. And like...
Maybe he was part of them. I don't know. The 80. We don't know what the 80 are.
It's just a theory.
It's just a theory at the moment until chapter 2.
Yep.
But there's a revolt that's about I remember the name, Girardot. I think that's how I pronounce it. They're all French names. I can't really get it too much, but Girardot.
The guy with what were they talking about? Peacock? He has something to do with the peacock. He was like, how are the peacocks doing?
That was his friend. Girardot.
What's the other guy's name?
Gioacchino is the guy who's going to rise up. See, I'm getting the French pronunciation now. Gioacchino. It's fun to say. French words are fun. No wonder you made the characters French named. But, Gioacchino is going to rise up and, have a coup against him, I guess. Mm-hmm. I can see why. If the president's out digging in the dirt for bones, we need a guy who's going to, clean the place up. I don't know. I feel like I'm a Gioacchino supporter.
I'm not.
You're not?
I like Dan.
You like Dan?
Sylveste. I really like him.
Dang. I knew you'd support him. You would support him.
But he's like unaware of other people like talking behind his back. Like that lady that told him in the first place, like, oh, there are people who are like already thinking about it. It's like, why is he like oblivious to it? Oblivious to what? Like, what is he doing? So far, the only bad thing that he's done is the bone thing. Not the bone thing. The thing that they're digging up. but I don't really see that as like a bad quality.
Oh, the thing that they're digging up. That's
Yeah.
something else. It said it had some writing on it. Mm-hmm. And so they just found an obelisk. And so Dan's theory that he was arguing with Pascal about is that he has his own pet theory that's not really accepted among the scientists. And I think the scientists, the consensus at the moment is that they were pretty technologically, like, backwards, or maybe like medieval. I don't know. I didn't really go into it. Or maybe they're like prehistoric level. Who knows? But the discovery of the obelisk shows that they could make some art and things like that. I don't know if that was in dispute, but they have some ability to make this obelisk thing, so maybe they're more advanced than they thought. Mm-hmm. But that's all I've gleaned from just having, like, oh, you know, there's an obelisk. I mean, ancient Egyptians had obelisks. It doesn't mean they're flying spaceships around. No.
I mean, they haven't really dug it up yet, right? Like,
I
only
think-
like the top part. That was like the main part he was talking about. He was like, make sure you guys, I want to be able to see at least the top of it before the end of the day. And everyone wanted to evacuate, but he really wanted to see it.
I think they do end up evacuating at the end. I think they're like, nah, screw this. We're getting on the crawler
All
out
of
of
them?
here. I don't know if it's all of them. I think it's a few of them. He just saw them walk into the crawler, and he's like, well, there's my dig team. Those lousy youngsters getting on those college-educated kids can't do... Well, you need to be at least 100 years old before I trust you. But I think, yeah, that's the end of the chapter, I think.
Yeah, it just ended with the Calvin talking about something that we don't know about yet.
So, on to chapter 2. Aboard the Light Hugger.
Oh my god, predictions
Predictions for chapter 2.
They're gonna go into Calvin and what he's doing. Hopefully they figure out what they dug up. That's all. I don't really have anything to say.
I'm going to disappoint you. So, these books kind of like to jump around. You're going to find out. They're going to jump around. You're going to have new characters. I'm sorry to tell you. They're not going to talk about Dan for a little while. I don't think. Maybe they'll jump back to him. They'll be back. We'll be back. It's just, we're going to be all over the place a little bit.
Okay.
But that's the fun of it. You'll figure out that's the fun of it. So,
Everything will connect in the end.
yeah.
Does it, actually?
I don't know.
Do they
Does it?
answer?
Yeah. Check in next episode. Figure out what they do in chapter 2. Okay. Well, on to chapter 2 we go. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm Trevor.
I'm Kaylee.
And this was...
Spaceballs.
No, you can't say that. We have to bloop that out. I'm going to get sued. This is Revelation Space, guys. And we're going to get canceled. by
Please
Spaceballs.
come follow our Patreon.
We don't have a Patreon.
We are coming out with merch soon.
Coming out.
Balls in space. It's like this, but twice.
Stop mentioning it. It's not funny.
It's funny. They won't know. They won't know we said all this.
I can cut it out.
You'll cut it all out.
I'm not going to cut it out.
We're gonna come out with